Imagine you're standing at the edge of a cliff. The wind is strong, your vision blurred by dust in the air, and you're trying to decide, leap, step back, or stay still. That cliff is every major decision in your life. And the dust. That's the fog, emotions, ego, pressure, that clouds your ability to see clearly. Most of us don't fall because we're foolish. We fall because we can't see. Shane Parrish, through his deeply insightful book Clear Thinking, invites us to learn how to wipe away that fog to see our choices, our lives, with unfiltered clarity. Shane Parrish is not a psychologist or a guru. He's a former intelligence analyst for Canada's top cybersecurity agency and the founder of Farnham Street, a wildly popular blog followed by thinkers and leaders worldwide. For years, Parrish has studied the habits, frameworks, and philosophies of some of the world's wisest minds, from Warren Buffett to Charlie Munger. What he's found is startling. Intelligence doesn't always lead to good decisions. In fact, some of the most intelligent people make the most destructive choices. Why? Because thinking clearly isn't about how smart you are. It's about how much control you have over what gets in the way of thinking. At the heart of Parrish's philosophy lies a profound but simple truth. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your decisions. And the quality of your decisions depends on your ability to pause, clear away the fog, and choose wisely. He's not promising that you'll never make a mistake. What he offers instead is a kind of compass, a way to return, over and over, to clarity, even when life gets messy. The fog he speaks of comes in three forms, all deeply familiar. First, there's ego, the invisible hand that pulls us toward proving ourselves, defending our ideas, and protecting our self-image. Ego is that quiet whisper that says, "Don't admit you were wrong," or "They need to know you're smarter." It feels like armor, but it's actually a cage. It locks us into patterns of pride, defensiveness, and blind spots. Then comes emotion. Anger, fear, anxiety, even excitement. They narrow our vision. They flood the system. When we're emotional, we don't see reality as it is. We see it through a lens of survival. We lash out in arguments. We hit send on emails we regret. We buy things we don't need. We say yes when we should have said no. Emotion hijacks thinking and makes the short term feel like the only term. And finally, there's social pressure. Humans are tribal. We crave belonging. But that drive can make us conform when we should dissent, stay quiet when we should speak, and follow the crowd even when the crowd is heading off a cliff. Whether it's groupthink in a boardroom or the curated perfection of social media, our judgment becomes outsourced to the consensus around us. These forces, ego, emotion, and pressure, are what Parrish calls the forces of fog. They aren't flaws in our character. They're ancient survival tools misfiring in a modern world. But here's the key. Once you can name them, you can disarm them. So how do we cut through this fog? Parrish doesn't suggest suppressing it or pretending to be above it. Instead, he introduces something far more powerful and far more attainable: the pause. The pause is the sliver of space between stimulus and response. It's the breath before you speak, the heartbeat before you act, the silence before the decision. In that space lives freedom. Most of us live in reaction. Someone criticizes us and we respond defensively. A stressful email arrives and we respond with urgency instead of understanding. But if we can learn to pause, to notice the fog rising before it takes over, we create a chance, a moment to choose deliberately instead of automatically. This isn't about becoming a monk or a robot. It's about reclaiming authorship of your behavior. Parrish teaches that the pause is a habit you build. It starts with awareness, recognizing your triggers, understanding your emotional patterns, noticing when ego flares up. He suggests journaling to examine past decisions and practicing reflection to notice which situations consistently pull you into reaction. And then you prepare. You create pause plans, strategies for common situations where fog tends to rise. Maybe before every important meeting, you take 3 minutes to ground yourself. Maybe you commit to never replying to emotionally charged messages right away. These micropauses, repeated over time, become automatic. They become your new baseline. Once you've paused and the fog begins to lift, you're ready to think clearly. But what does that mean, really? Clear thinking isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions. It starts with clarifying what you actually want. This is where most people go wrong, not because they lack intelligence, but because they're solving for the wrong goal. You think you're trying to win an argument, but what you really want is connection. You think you want to be right, but what you really want is to understand. Parrish reminds us that clarity of outcome is clarity of action. Once you know what matters, the next step is evaluating your options, soberly, slowly, and with a long-term lens. Here, Parrish introduces the idea of mental models, thinking tools that help us avoid the common traps of short-termism, tunnel vision, and overconfidence. He talks about second-order thinking. Don't just ask, what happens if I do this? Ask, and then what? He urges us to consider opportunity cost, not just what we're choosing, but what we're giving up by choosing it. And he returns again and again to first principles, asking, what do I know for sure? What assumptions am I making? But he's also careful to note, models are only as useful as the clarity of the thinker using them. If you're still in a fog, no model can save you. So the work is not just tactical, it's foundational. And the final act is to make this way of thinking not a one-time fix, but a lifestyle. Parrish believes clear thinking is a muscle, and muscles are built through repetition. That means habits, systems, and environment. He recommends setting up routines that reduce decision fatigue, like planning your day the night before or creating rituals that anchor your mornings. He encourages designing environments that protect your attention, muting notifications, scheduling time for solitude, surrounding yourself with people who value thoughtfulness over impulsiveness. He also talks about identity. At some point, it's not just about thinking clearly, it's about being a clear thinker. That identity guides you even when you're tired, stressed, or scared. You begin to ask, what would a clear thinker do here? That shift from behavior to identity is what makes the practice sustainable. In the end, clear thinking is not a book about being perfect. It's a book about being intentional. It doesn't promise that life will always be smooth or that you'll always make the right choice. What it offers instead is a way to live with fewer regrets, deeper awareness, and more confidence in your own judgment. Shane Parrish's message is quiet but powerful. You can't control the world. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you see. You can control whether you act from fog or from clarity. That's not just clear thinking. That's clear living. So the next time you're pulled into a storm of reaction, by a headline, a comment, a disappointment, remember this, there is a space, a pause, and in that space you have power, the power to step back, the power to breathe, the power to choose. Thank you for joining this audiobook summary of Clear Thinking by Shane Parrish. If this journey helped you see a little more clearly, make sure to subscribe for more thoughtful, wisdom-rich summaries like this. Let's keep building the clarity that leads to better decisions and better lives.